hello.
Hi, John. It's Shaun here. Look, I was just wondering, do you have a bit of time to speak about the transfer budget?
Sure thing.
Great. Now, look, I'm struggling to sell some players I'd like to get rid of, and also some of the injured players I do need to keep because they're homegrown club and nation players for the European competitions and for the Premier League. So I was just wondering, can we get a little bit more money so I can actually strengthen the midfield and get in a player who does fit for what you guys want, what the board want, as well as the fans potentially?
I don't think so, Shaun.
No?
No,
Nah, of course not. That's right. You don't do this with Yugen either, do you?
I don't think so, Shaun.
It was worth a try. Yeah.
Sorry, but no.
Okay, I'll get to work and hopefully bring home this community shield.
Good luck with that.
Great. Thanks, John. You're the best, mate. Bye. Bye. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 2 of the Football Manager 2023 Beta Save with Liverpool here on Shaun Does FM. I hope you are doing well, and coming up in today's episode, a very, very small transfer update, and off the back of that we are going to play our first competitive match somewhat of this save as we do take on Manchester City, fully licensed Manchester City in the Community Shield. So if you are looking forward to this episode, then do consider going down below, leaving a thumbs up on the video. It does help with all that algorithm type of stuff. And also, if you haven't done so already and do like the look of the save and of the channel in general, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well, so you do not miss out on any of the Football Manager 2023 content here on the channel. Hopefully today my audio doesn't cut out a little bit patchily. I've got rid of an app I was using which just did not work on these YouTube recordings, so hopefully I've sorted out these audio settings now and things are nice today, and hopefully not too echoey from my little room which I do these recordings in as well. But today we are going to pick up things a little bit further off the back of where we did start the save in yesterday's episode. If you did miss that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. I did suggest we would go and try and improve our box-to-box midfield position in this team. Unfortunately though, we've been able to garner no interest really in any of our players here at Liverpool, which is a little bit frustrating. We were trying to get someone who would be a better box-to-box option than Naby Keita for this upcoming season. It actually turns out he's quite a good option as a box-to-box midfielder, even his attributes compared to someone like Jude Bellingham, who ideally we would go after, apart from the fact that he does cost around about £100 million, and we only have £44 million available to us these days, off the back of me dealing with a few clauses that we could sell in contracts. But even Jude Bellingham, attribute-wise, is not actually as good as Naby Keita, so it does mean that he is not the worst box-to-box midfield option that we could be using in this save, but still it's an area I think we could improve in. And also added to that is the fact that there are not that many players here who we can actually afford to sell. Players like Jordan Henderson and other ones who are considered fringe players, the likes of James Milner, and also some of the injured players, the likes of Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Curtis Jones. Those type of players are quite important in terms of us fulfilling our registration rules for this upcoming season for homegrown nation and club players. So that does mean our options in terms of players that we can sell are a little bit limited. So because of that, I think Naby Keita, even though he is our best box-to-box midfield option at the moment, might be the player that we do have to try and sell if we are going to bring a big name to the club, and his transfer value is around the 30 to 40 million mark, so that would bump us up to around 84 million. So maybe with a few add-ons in the future, then we could get someone like Jude Bellingham into the club if we can't get any interest in Naby Keita, which so far we have not been able to do. Then maybe someone like Thiago, who unfortunately just picked up an injury a week prior to this Community Shield game, so that is why Keita is in the Mazzala role and Jordan Henderson makes his way back into the first 11. But yet again, he might be a player, because of those rules, who we can look to get rid of. Obviously a really good player. Ideally we would keep hold of him, but he is valued between 55 million and 73 million, so that might not be the worst option either, albeit I think Naby Keita is certainly the player that we are going to look to let go of. But so far absolutely nothing has gone on in the transfer window, albeit we have identified potentially a few more options should Jude Bellingham prove to be just a little bit too expensive for us. We've found two other options who we could go after. And having just gone over to the shortlist, I've actually noticed that Jude Bellingham's asking price has now gone down to £86 million. So that might be a little bit more in our wheelhouse, but if that is still a little bit too expensive, we do have two players who could be alternatives, albeit one of them not so good, is quite a similar age bracket, and one who is better but is quite a bit older. First off, we'll show you guys the younger option who does fit in with what the board and the supporters do expect from us. And their other younger option is Jamal Musiala, the young German at 19 years old, already with 15 international caps for the first team and 1 goal. He's certainly more of an attacking player, so might end up being a Musiala instead of a box-to-box midfielder like we were looking for, but still a very good option and slightly cheaper than Jude Bellingham as well. So that is one option we could go for should we just not be able to make up that price that Jude Bellingham is after for us to try and get him hopefully off the back of the sale of someone like Naby Keita. And the other option that we do have, as I mentioned, a bit of an older player, but is actually quite a bit better than what we've already got in the position. And that is none other than Sergej Milinkovic-Savic out of Lazio. Of course, he's been a quality player and football manager for a number of years, yet again, not that much cheaper than what Jude Bellingham would be. So maybe we should just front up with that money if we can actually sell someone like Naby Keita in this transfer window. But those attributes, certainly a much more well-developed player at this stage, and that could be a bit more of a better option potentially for this 1 year save that we are doing, even though the board do expect us to sign those players under 23 years old. So a bit of a dilemma there. If we can get the money, do we go for the more proven and first season ready option in SMS, or do we go for the younger, more promising talent in Jude Bellingham, who, to be fair, overall, still probably a better player than what Naby Keita is. But for that box-to-box midfield role, Naby Keita, when you add up those key attributes, is still slightly better. But no doubt Jude Bellingham eventually is going to turn out to be the much better player. Also quite surprised that Naby Keita is actually 27 years old. Thought he was a little bit younger than that. But that's pretty much all that we've done transfer-wise, just trying to identify a few more targets. We did try and sign a young winger, who I did see on Viking Dan's video from the Alpha build, quite a promising Norwegian winger out of Norgeland, and that was Andreas Schellerup. We did have him identified. He would have only cost us £7.5 million with his release clause, but unfortunately, by the time that we did put the transfer offer in, he just renewed his contract with the club, so it is unlikely that we are going to sign him. He would have been quite a useful fill-in for someone in our front three, while players like Diogo Jota were unavailable due to injury, and of course being 18 years old would not have filled up one of our registration spots for the Premier League as well. But unfortunately, he just signed a new contract a little bit too soon for us to get hold of him. So still, we have our 40 million transfer budget left, plus a little bit more off the back of us selling some of those clauses from previous contracts, which we don't really need to worry about with the save being only one season. But in terms of the on-field action, in terms of the friendlies that have happened off the back of yesterday's episode in the pre-season, it's been pretty good news for the most part, picking up wins in all but one of our games, including probably the most serious test that we have had in a Champions League final rematch from last season against Real Madrid, picking up a 4-1 win there, albeit at Anfield. So that was a very good result, albeit a couple of days off the back of that with pretty much the same team. We somehow lost away to Bologna by a scoreline of 1-0, our only defeat in the pre-season. But if we go over and have a look at the stats from this game, not too sure exactly how we did not pick up a win in this one. I think it's fair to say we certainly got FM, but apart from that game, our pre-season has been pretty good, albeit just a few still annoying injuries. And also Thiago has now picked up a pulled thigh, which does mean he is going to be missing for this clash in the Community Shield against Manchester City. Our opposition today, of course, the defending Premier League champions, as I said earlier, a licensed team in the game as well this year, which is very nice. There's all the lovely uniforms and an actual logo, of course, and their team, as you all know, of course, very, very strong with the likes of Erling Haaland in the team, albeit it does look like in the most recent game they didn't play too many of those good players. But obviously the key man who we do need to keep an eye out on in this game is their new signing. Once we eventually find him right down near the bottom of their team sheet, there he is, the 22-year-old Norwegian who just looks like an absolute beast in this year's game. Hopefully we can keep him quiet like Liverpool have done in real life so far this season and pick up the Community Shield like Jurgen Klopp did, albeit at the very least, hopefully this will give us a good indication of whether or not our tactic is going to be good enough for the Premier League and the Champions League this season, the vertical tiki-taka, which to be fair has done quite well for us in the pre-season so far, being really good in terms of controlling position and for the most part being quite solid at the back as well. But there is our team going into this one. We've just made a few little tweaks off the back of what we did think our first 11 was when we got settled into the club in yesterday's episode. As I mentioned, with Thiago out, that does mean Henderson comes back to the box-to-box midfield role. Naby Keita goes forward to the Mazzala. Also, Adrian still in goal. We could have played Alisson if we really wanted to, but with this being the Community Shield, I think we'll just let him heal fully and he can get into the action tomorrow when we do kick off the Premier League season against Arsenal. And also Joel Matip and Virgil van Dijk have switched around because Virgil van Dijk does like playing on the left-hand side as a centre-back a little bit more than on the right-hand side. But apart from that, pretty much what you'd expect from this Liverpool lineup. And of course, with us starting Darwin Núñez over Roberto Firmino for now. So we'll come back shortly and get into the action. Our first game from the save. Have a look at how the match engine looks in FM23 as we take on Man City in the Community Shield from the King Power Stadium. And here are the team sheets for the Community Shield here for this FM23 Beta save. There we are, as we ran through before, our 4-3-3, the vertical tiki-taka. And here come all the faces of Manchester City. It does look like a pretty close to full-strength team, albeit Ortega in goal over Edison. Of course, City are going to be in the blue. We are in the Liverpool red. And hopefully we can get off to a good start for the season here and lay down an early marker against City in the Community Shield. And we are 4 minutes into this one, an early free kick here, which Mo Salah will hopefully put on target, a deflection, but Virgil van Dijk nearly wins that in the air, but Ortega does come out to clear. I've already seen deflections from free kicks in this year's game are a little bit interesting, but we get the ball back not too long off the back of that clearance from Man City, but unfortunately give it straight back to City, albeit they try and play Haaland through there, and Virgil van Dijk does tidy things up, and it looks like we might get on the front foot, albeit can't quite link up there with Mo Salah out on the right-hand side, and City do look to play out from the back. Hopefully, both teams here might get the chance to make the most of some rotation. Goalkeepers, but it's really poor from Trent at right back, but thankfully, a block in there from one of our other defenders. That's the first highlight of this game, and still 0-0 coming up to the 10-minute mark. And up to the 18-minute mark now, we do have a corner, and Virgil van Dijk does just put that one over the bar. A good chance there coming up to the 20-minute mark, but it does still remain 0-0 here. And a couple of highlights now in each team's favour. Andy Robertson gets in behind his man there, but tries to play that ball forward. Man City do win that ball back in the air, but then Naby Keita, some good work to get position back, but then Luis Diaz is robbed by Rodrigo, and now Kyle Walker gets the ball back off of Luis Diaz as well. So it's a bit interesting already. I can see that players are losing position a little bit more frequently on the ball than they were in last year's game. Kevin De Bruyne there tries to play a ball over the top, but Andy Robertson plays that one back to Adrian. Will try and ping this one out to Mo Salah. He beats João Cancelo. Can he tuck this one away? Unfortunately, that shot straight into the path of Ortega, and still 0-0 at the 21-minute mark. And now we are down the other end for a City corner, and John Stones gets his head on the end of that. We do not defend at the near post. We have set up our corners for the near post because it does look like that is still going to be the meta in this year's game. And unfortunately, just unmarked there is John Stones. Also, Gundogan was there who could have put that one away. And after a pretty strong start, we go 1-0 down here coming up towards the 25-minute mark, albeit we are back in position trying to play a ball over the top there for Naby Keita, and that is very interesting as they try and clear that ball, but eventually they block that somewhat shot from Naby Keita, and it does go off target. He almost left Ortega high and dry there, did Kyle Walker with that clearing header, but we put the ball in the mixer from the corner, but unfortunately can't get a shot off, and still 1-0 down coming up to the half-hour mark. And we have a highlight here just as we enter injury time in the first half. Some recent yellow cards to both Andy Robertson and Luis Diaz, but it's a poor clearance from Man City, and we do get the ball back here down the right-hand side, albeit Trent does not find his teammate, but then they give the ball straight back to Fabinho. So as I mentioned earlier, certainly teams on the ball do look like they're a little bit less controlled in possession from what we've seen so far in this game. Now Naby Keita will try and find Luis Diaz. It's a little bit messy there inside the box. Keita with a shot, it comes crashing off the bar. That was a good chance there, our best one certainly so far in this half, but unfortunately we can't make the most of it, and at half-time we are 1-0 down here in this Community Shield, albeit I think we're actually playing some quite good football, and the stats would also suggest that, especially the XG, well on top in terms of that. So hopefully we can get our butts into gear just a little bit more here in the second half. So far, Joel Matip, though, out there on a 6.3. So I think that is one change we are going to make here at halftime. If he keeps on putting in performances like that, someone like Ibrahima Konate might get that first team spot over him. We'll bring him on to start the second half, but overall, quite pleased with the performance, albeit not the scoreline so far. We get the second half underway, trailing by 1-0. And our first highlight in the second half comes only a few minutes into it. Adrian pumps that one out to Trent Alexander-Arnold. He tries to find Mo Salah, but just overcooks that pass a little bit, and Ruben Dias plays that ball over the top for Haaland. Missed heavily that time by Ibrahima Konate. Luis Diaz on a yellow card with a slide tackle. That's a little bit dicey, but thankfully we did just get possession back, and unfortunately it's a little bit to and fro from there, and City are back on the attack. João Cancelo lays that one back to Rodrigo, makes his way out to the left-hand side, albeit good work there from Mo Salah to get us possession back. But as we've seen in this game so far, possession is going to and fro quite regularly, and yet again in this highlight, you can see that as well. Bernardo, he finds Erling Haaland, and of course he will tuck that one away in the bottom left corner. And despite us looking quite good in that first half, early on in the second half, we already find ourselves 2-0 down, and this could be a tough old challenge, trying to win the quadruple against Manchester City with Erling Haaland. They have taken their chances very well, and so far, we've been a little bit wasteful with ours. 2-0 Man City, 5 minutes into the second half. And we are just past the hour mark, still trailing by 2-0, even though stats-wise, playing quite well, but as we know, that is not always that important. But we are going to make our second substitution. Naby Keita out there, struggling just a little bit on a 6.4, even though he did have one of our better chances in that first half. So coming on for him with the options on the bench, I think Harvey Elliott might be the best one in that attacking Mazzala role. And we might also switch Mo Salah to an inside forward and just see if that will help him create a few more chances late in this one, as we still trail by 2-0. Out to the 64-minute mark, it is a corner here for Manchester City. They put this far post, good chance there for one of Ruben or Rodrigo, but it just goes over the bar, and we are still 2-0 down, and now Jordan Henderson has gone down to a red heart. This will be our next substitution. I nearly said final one. I do think we actually have 5 substitutions this year in the game, of course, but Jordan Henderson, he can go off. I think the best option on the bench at this stage might actually be James Milner. Still not too sure exactly what we are going to do with Arthur on loan from Juventus, but that will be our next substitution. And apart from that, maybe we could take off Darwin Núñez, just going okay so far, and see if Roberto Firmino can provide something up front as well. And we'll see if we can get a goal back at the very least in these last 25 minutes. And just about to enter the last 20 minutes of this one, it is a free kick here for Manchester City, which Kevin De Bruyne will take, and it comes off the outside of the post. That one didn't actually look like it was ever going to make its way in, but went a little bit closer than I was suspecting. But Man City certainly having the better things here on the second half, and they still hold a 2-0 lead here over us. And now Erling Haaland makes his way forward down the right-hand side. Thankfully, Virgil van Dijk this time does get position back from him. Hopefully, we can play out from the back safely this time, albeit De Bruyne does rob James Milner of the ball, and that's a really good chance there for Jack Grealish, but puts it wide, and still 2-0 Man City. I think it's time for us to really throw everything at these guys for the last 10 minutes. And we are just entering injury time in this game. Unfortunately, the second half has not been up to much for us here, and we have a late highlight, which does start with a throw-in to Manchester City. We had some good chances there to open the scoring in the first half, but unfortunately, Man City, right before the break, did put themselves in the lead, and from there, really, we've never really been able to put ourselves back into this game, and it does look like it is going to wrap up, and we are going to start off the season, unfortunately, losing the Community Shield to Manchester City, but hopefully we can get payback for that later in the season in the other competitions that we do take part in. But that is not a good start, it is fair to say, and unfortunately, we have to see Manchester City walk up there and lift this Community Shield, albeit there are certainly bigger fish to fry in this upcoming season. But there you can see the trophy presentation, albeit we were hoping that would be Liverpool up there instead of Man City, but it does look fairly similar in terms of these other competitions that aren't the UEFA ones to previous years, maybe just a little bit longer there to lift up the trophy, but quite similar. We will hopefully see later on in this FM save, the beta save, just how different things do look in those trophy presentations for the UEFA competitions. But in the end, bit of a disappointing defeat there against Pep Guardiola's Manchester City, and we do lose the Community Shield by a scoreline of 2-0. So unfortunately, we do start off this save in our first competitive match with a loss overall. We didn't actually play that badly, a slightly higher XG than Manchester City, but as I said, they were a lot more clinical with their chances, as you would expect with a striker like Erling Haaland, and we were just that little bit wasteful with ours, but also very interesting to see how much the ball did change between teams in those highlights that we did see in that game. Certainly something which does look a little bit different from in previous years in the match engines. That's certainly something to keep an eye out on in terms of our players. Nobody had a great game, and also not that many players having a stinker either. Of course, we were missing a few key players like Thiago and Alisson in goal. Whether that would have made a difference, though, does remain to be seen. In Man City, on the other hand, most of their players did play quite well, so certainly there is some room for improvement there, but I do think overall this tactic could potentially work, and we'll see how it does get on in the early stages of the Premier League season, in which we will kick off in tomorrow's episode. As you can see, 6 days away is our first game in the Premier League, and it's a big one as well against the team in real life who currently find themselves on top of the Premier League in Arsenal. So that will be a very interesting matchup, and hopefully by that stage we might have a little bit more of a clearer outlook on who we could potentially sign, albeit the game is only 6 days away, and also something we might do in between now and then. I have just been rejigging the staff off the back of yesterday's episode. We actually went down on coaches because they did have quite a few coaches at Liverpool when I first got here. We are still over the quota, but we do still have one of the better coaching units in the Premier League. We certainly improved the medical staff. That has jumped up a great deal from where it was when we did start off this save. But in terms of the scouts, I think that is something we could potentially improve, and maybe I need to do that off the back of today's episode, seeing as so far I don't think our scouting has been the greatest off the back of where we did start things in yesterday's episode. Hopefully if we give that a bit of a rejig, hopefully we'll get a few more interesting transfer targets who we could potentially bring to the club for this quadruple or nothing season. But now we definitely need to win the proper quadruple off the back of that 2-0 loss to Manchester City. If you did enjoy today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. As I said, tomorrow we will come back and kick off the Premier League season with that opener away at the Emirates against Arsenal. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.